The flashing red and blue lights painted the quiet suburban street in chaotic streaks as two police officers yanked 72-year-old Samuel Grayson from his pickup truck. His arthritic knees buckled as they slammed him against the hood, the cold metal biting through his thin flannel shirt. "You're resisting arrest, old man," Officer Daniels barked, twisting Samuel's arm behind his back until the Korean War veteran gasped in pain. Neighbors peeked through curtains as the scene unfolded, the decorated Vietnam War helicopter mechanic being treated like a common criminal over a broken taillight. Samuel's voice shook with both pain and dignity as he explained, "Son, I was just driving home from the VFW hall." But the younger cop, Richards, just laughed. "Save it for the judge, Gramps." The body cam footage would later show what happened next in horrifying detail: the unnecessary knee to Samuel's back as they cuffed him, the mocking laughter when his Purple Heart medal clattered to the pavement. What the cameras didn't capture was Samuel whispering through bruised lips as they shoved him in the cruiser, "You don't know who my son is." Back at the station, the booking officer froze when he saw the name on the arrest report. His face went pale as he reached for the phone. "Sir, we might have a serious problem." Major General Thomas Grayson was in the middle of a classified briefing at Fort Bragg when his aide rushed in with the encrypted satellite phone. The other officers in the room recognized the look that transformed their normally composed commander's face, the barely contained fury of a man who'd led special ops missions in 3 war zones. "Say that again." Thomas growled into the phone, his knuckles whitening around the receiver. The police chief's stammering explanation about a misunderstanding with your father was interrupted by Thomas snapping his fingers at his staff. "Get me the Attorney General, now!" Within minutes, every law enforcement agency in the state was scrambling. The Justice Department dispatched investigators before Thomas even boarded the helicopter that would take him home. Meanwhile, at the county jail, Samuel sat hunched on a metal bench, his breathing labored from what would later be diagnosed as 2 broken ribs. The arresting officers were still laughing in the break room about teaching the old man a lesson when the first federal agents stormed the building. The police chief, now sweating through his uniform, personally unlocked Samuel's cell. "Mr. Grayson, there's been a terrible mistake." Samuel just smiled through split lips. "Shouldn't have touched the phone, Chief." The roar of Black Hawk helicopters shook the police station's windows as 3 military aircraft touched down in the parking lot. Thomas Grayson emerged in full dress uniform, his chest adorned with medals including the Distinguished Service Cross. The sight of a 4-star general's insignia made the rookie cop at the desk nearly faint. Thomas didn't raise his voice as he addressed the trembling police chief. "Where is my father?" The subsequent medical report would document the extent of Samuel's injuries, the fractured ribs, the dislocated shoulder, the bruises forming around his wrists. But what burned hottest in Thomas's chest was the sight of his father's Purple Heart lying forgotten in an evidence bag. The station's security cameras captured the moment Thomas turned to the arresting officers, his voice deathly calm. "You put your hands on a man who survived the chosen reservoir. You mocked a veteran who served when you were still in diapers." Then came the sound no police officer ever wants to hear: the click of FBI agents removing badges. "You're under arrest for civil rights violations," the lead agent announced as Thomas helped his father to a waiting medevac helicopter. The local news crews arriving just in time to film Daniels and Richards being read their Miranda rights would make the footage go viral by nightfall. By sunrise, the Justice Department had turned the small police department inside out. Federal prosecutors uncovered a pattern of misconduct stretching back years: falsified reports, excessive force complaints buried by internal affairs, racist text messages between officers. The district attorney, facing re-election, immediately announced felony charges against Daniels and Richards for aggravated assault. But Thomas Grayson wasn't satisfied with just 2 scalps. His quiet meeting with the Secretary of Veterans Affairs led to a nationwide audit of police interactions with elderly vets. The Pentagon, in an unprecedented move, released a statement condemning the shameful mistreatment of American heroes. Meanwhile, Samuel recovered at Walter Reed Medical Center where nurses were stunned to see three different Medal of Honor recipients visit his bedside. The media frenzy grew as bodycam footage leaked showing the officers joking about Samuel's military service during the arrest. When reporters asked Thomas for comment outside the hospital, his response made headlines. These men forgot the oath they took to protect and serve. Now, they'll learn what happens when you break faith with America. The dominoes fell with military precision. The police chief resigned after federal investigators found he'd ignored multiple complaints about his officers. The city council approved a $5 million settlement with Samuel before he even filed suit. But the real earthquake came when the U.S. attorney announced RICO charges against the entire police union leadership for systematically covering up misconduct. Thomas, meanwhile, leveraged his connections to push through Samuel's law, federal legislation requiring mandatory sensitivity training for all police officers on veteran-related issues. The arresting officers became pariahs. Daniels attempted to flee to Mexico, but was arrested at the border, while Richard's wife filed for divorce after his racist text messages went public. The final humiliation came when the local VFW Post voted unanimously to ban both officers for life. As Samuel told reporters from his porch where he smoked his victory cigar, "This was never about me. It's about every old soldier who's ever been disrespected by some punk with a badge." The courtroom was packed on sentencing day. Thomas Grayson sat ramrod straight in the front row, his dress uniform a silent rebuke to the shackled officers at the defense table. The judge, herself an Army reservist, didn't hide her disgust as she reviewed the evidence, particularly the moment when Richards had kicked Samuel's Purple Heart across the patrol car floor like a beer can. "You dishonored the uniform every police officer should wear with pride," she declared before sentencing both men to 7 years in federal prison. Outside, a crowd of veterans cheered as the officers were led away in tears. But Thomas's work wasn't done. That afternoon, he stood before Congress testifying about systemic police reform, flanked by leaders from every major veterans organization. His proposal for a national registry of officers fired for misconduct passed committee by unanimous vote. Meanwhile, Samuel, now something of a folk hero, made his first public appearance at a baseball game, throwing out the first pitch to a standing ovation. As the ball left his hand, the Jumbotron flashed a message that brought the crowd to its feet. "Welcome home, Sergeant Grayson." 5 years later, the Grayson incident had transformed police-veteran relations nationwide. The Federal Registry Thomas championed had weeded out hundreds of bad officers, while sensitivity training reduced veteran-related complaints by 68%. Samuel, now spry at 77, toured the country as an ambassador for veterans' rights, his signature line, "Respect your elders, especially those who fought for you," becoming a viral hashtag. The arresting officers became cautionary tales. Daniels committed suicide in prison, while Richards emerged a broken man working menial jobs. Thomas, promoted to lieutenant general, ensured every basic training class heard his father's story as part of ethics instruction. The final irony came when the old police station was converted into a veterans outreach center, its walls adorned with Samuel's military memorabilia, including that same Purple Heart now displayed in a glass case with a plaque reading, "All who serve deserve respect." On Veterans Day, as Thomas pinned a new medal on his father's chest, this one for civilian service, reporters asked Samuel if he'd forgiven the officers. The old man just smiled and adjusted his hat. "Son, the Army taught me long ago, some battles you win by fighting. Others," he nodded at the transformed police station, "you win by outlasting." And with that, the Grayson men saluted the flag together, their shared legacy secure. One as a war hero, the other as the general who made America remember why heroes matter.